Hi, this is Joyce Graff. I'm with The Powerful Patient, and I've brought with me today the board of directors of the VHL Alliance from 1994. This is the first time we ever got together in Kansas City, the heart of America, to bring together families with VHL for the very first time. And I remember one of the interesting things, Lois was the chairman of that meeting. And she called me about 2 weeks before the meeting and she said, I'm not hearing from anybody. I don't know if anybody's going to show up. Maybe we should cancel this meeting. I said, no, we're holding it. If we have 5 people, I'm going to declare success. We're doing this. And we showed up in Kansas City and we had a sellout crowd.
Yep.
We had more than 100 people.
Yes, over 100. Yep.
Yeah. And we had planned, I think, for 75. And we had almost 120 people for lunch, and the hotel was really punting. But anyway, that's just an example of how little information there was for families about VHL in 1994, and how when we put the word out, people really, really responded. So we gathered together as families to try to address our concerns around this very rare disease, von Hippel-Lindau disease. And we have with us today Chandra Clark, who is the current executive director of the VHL Alliance, and Heidi Leone, who's also from the Alliance. And let me ask everybody to just go around and introduce themselves a little bit. Lois, shall we start with you?
I don't care, Cher. Lois Erickson from Minnesota, and I do have VHL and I had my first surgery in 1982, but we've learned a lot since then.
And Lois and I met because you read an article in the Reader's Digest. Do you remember?
Correct. And I wrote to Reader's Digest and I said, I want to talk to that lady. I want to meet her. And they said, oh, we can't give her name out, but we'll send your name to Joyce. And then we connected and talked for an hour, hour and a half after that.
Wow.
Right, right. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Fred?
Hello, I'm Fred Johnson from Brooklyn, New York. I'm the husband of Althea Johnson, and she was diagnosed with VHL in 1988. And
1988, okay.
1988, and had her first surgery in 88, and her second surgery in 89, and she was wheelchair bound after that. And really, we didn't know anything about VHL. She was the first in the family to ever be diagnosed and to have any sort of medical conditions associated with VHL. And so she found out about the VHL Alliance through Joyce. And when we went to the first meeting, I believe it was in
94 or 5, one of the two.
Yeah. And that was the first time we ever met anybody else with VHL.
And this was a meeting that was held in Massachusetts, and they drove up from New York for the meeting. And when they walked into the room, we all went, oh, I guess African Americans are also people who might get VHL. It was the first time many of us had realized that.
Yes. And so, and further discovery, she went on to check her family tree and history and found out that the VHL was on her father's side. And years later, discovered that several other people in her family had VHL, including an older sister. And that older sister had 2 children, a son and a daughter, and they both had VHL. The sister, unfortunately, passed away 2 months before she passed away. And recently, I can't remember the exact year, about 3 years ago, the nephew passed away, and he has a surviving sister who now has a daughter.
So as I recall, in the old days, you all thought that it only affected men until Althea was diagnosed with VHL. It was her father and brother, as I recall, that had VHL before.
That's correct. Her father died in the 60s, but never was diagnosed with VHL. He just had a brain tumor, and they said he died from that. And then her older brother died after his first year of college with a similar brain tumor.
Great. And I see Susan Warnick Breslin is joining us. Susan, I'll let you get yourself settled here for a minute.
Okay.
We're just going around and
Thank you.
introducing ourselves.
Okay.
So Tom, you want to go?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Tom Rodenberg. I am in the Kansas City area working as an attorney here. And I come from a real big family. There are 11 children. And then my parents took on two of their nieces, so 13 all total. We first found out about VHL in 1980, Christmas Day of 1980. Oldest sister was diagnosed. She was having severe headaches and had finally found brain tumor. And the thing I remember most about it was within the next couple of weeks, they flew in these hotshot geneticists out of the National Institutes of Health to meet with our family. I guess it was that rare back then. I don't know. But anyway, I remember they met with us and told us we had a 50-50 chance of getting it and passing it on. So I thought that was real earth-shattering at the time. Thanks a lot for coming in. So we've been dealing with it a long, long time. I myself am also a patient and have had too many surgeries to count, but doing really good. So I don't remember how we connected, Joyce. I don't remember how I stumbled onto VHL.org. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
It was through Deborah Collins.
Oh, yeah. Debbie Collins. Yeah. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Deborah Collins is a genetic counselor at the University of Kansas, and she made a lot of our connections. She connected me with Susan too. So.
Oh, that's right. And so out of our 13 that my parents raised, 7 of us have it. So, and then we have 4 boys, and just one of our boys has it. So we beat the odds.
Excellent.
It is excellent.
Susan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Susan Warnick Breslin, and I met Joyce 25 years ago when this all started. My former husband was diagnosed with VHL in 1978, and he had big, very severe case and lots of brain tumors. He actually had involvement everywhere that you could have involvement. And he lived, though, a very productive life, got a master's degree in pastoral counseling, and then he did die in 1997.
So Susan is another of the founding mothers of the VHL Family Alliance. The third is Peggy Graham, who is now living in Ireland and is not able to join us today. But Susan was our expert on brain tumors and spinal tumors, CNS things. She's a nurse in neurosurgery. And as she mentioned, her husband, Craig, had a lot of brain tumors and spinal tumors to deal with. I was the one who knew about the eye and the kidney, and Peggy was the one who knew about pheochromocytoma. And so when we started, we made a pact that the 3 of us together, who were all working mothers and the sole support of our families, that the 3 of us together could probably contribute 1 person's worth of effort. And if we needed a timeout to take care of our families, that the other 2 would back the 3rd person. So on that pact, we launched the VHL Alliance in late 1992, officially opened in 93. And gathered some other fellow travelers to help us flesh out what we knew, because each of us just knew a fragment of VHL. We knew what we had bumped into, but that was all we knew. And we knew that we needed to put the whole picture together. So all of you, tell me how you felt walking into that room in Kansas City in 1994, because it was, we didn't know what to expect. As Tom mentioned, many of us had never met another person with VHL outside our own families. And what were you feeling when you walked into that room? Who wants to start?
I can't think what I felt, and it's basically what Althea felt. And we were both just glad to be there and to see other people, and at the same time, very sad that we were there. And I don't remember what else I was feeling at the time.
Lois?
I think I was really scared because I was supposed to be helping take over this meeting, and I knew nothing about holding a meeting. And I had to get up there and introduce myself and try to get everyone together. It was overwhelming, I guess, to meet all these people with VHL, and I thought I was just a couple people in the United States with it. But it was very, very enjoyable to meet everybody and hear them talk about it.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree. The numbers when I walked in, I remember I walked into the back of the room, I was presenting that day, and I was very surprised at the number of people, because you did kind of hear it was so rare, and it was like, oh, wow, this is a pretty good group of people that are involved with this condition. And hearing their stories was real encouraging too, just to hear other people and how they've dealt with it and the things that were going on in their lives. It was really, really good conference. The number surprised me when I walked in the back door, because again, I was presenting that day.
Yeah, I felt really hopeful for the first time, because I just felt like the organization was, going to promote research, and I really always believed there was going to be a cure. Of course, I believe that the treatment, maybe we'll get into that later, but was going to, affect my husband. So all this information of late is very bittersweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember, Susan, when Susan and I met for the first time at Deborah Collins' suggestion in a cafe in Maryland. I was there on a business trip, and it was like one of those, I'll wear a yellow rose so you know who I am. and we talked for about an hour about our experiences. And at the end of the hour, we both sat back and said, this has been an amazing conversation. I have learned more in the last hour than I have learned in the last several years from my doctors.
Mm-hmm.
What if we could get all the families together and put all our experiences and our conjectures in one pile? Maybe we could help the doctors fix this. And so that's the hope that I brought to Susan, to the meeting in Kansas City. If we can get all the families together and talk about this, maybe we can get a better handle on what VHL is and how to go about fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all went around the room, I remember, and said, if I had a magic wand, what would I want to do? And we all said, we want a cure for VHL. So we did ask our medical advisory board. We asked Dr. Lamille in particular, how long is it going to take to get a cure for VHL? And he said, realistically, it's going to take about 30 years. Well, here we are, almost 30 years later.
Right.
And we're beginning to hit the dawn of an age where we may see a cure for VHL. We don't have a cure yet, but I think we're finally on a path that might lead there. So how are you feeling about today now? What are your hopes and feelings about all the news that we're seeing and the advances that we've made, especially those of us with children and nieces and nephews who are affected? We've seen that young people have a very, thankfully, different path than some of our relatives went through in the 80s and before.
That they have nowadays is just really, great too. They don't have to worry about going to the doctor and explaining to everyone what is VHL and I have it, and will you help me? And the young people don't have to do that today. It's exciting news to have changes coming on.
It is, and it's wonderful for the people anyone who has a child or a grandchild are affected by this. This must just be, I can't even imagine how wonderful this must feel to know that there is not a cure, but a treatment, a potentially, really effective treatment. Really changes everything, the outlook on their whole life. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, I like what Lois said about docs. I remember my oldest sister, way back in the early 80s, she had a kidney tumor, and they just took her kidney out. They just took the whole thing, and then she developed it on the other one. So, the advances in treatment by the docs themselves, and the docs do seem a lot more knowledgeable now. You can kind of bump into docs that have heard of it. May not have seen much of it, but that they've at least heard of it. And of course, the drug development is a huge deal. There's a fair amount of apprehension in my family anyway about the drug because of the uncertainty about, am I going to take this chemo drug like 3 months or 10 years, or how long can I stay on? That was one thing that Iliopoulos wasn't, he even admitted that, well, we don't know in terms of how long you might have to be on it for it to do what we wanted to do. So I don't know. There's several members of our family a little apprehensive about the drug therapy because there's no predicted end in sight. They don't want to just be on this chemo drug for the next 10 years. So, but it's a great and exciting development for sure. A few things to iron out and off we go. So, but I do like the fact that doctors seem more knowledgeable at how to handle it now. Maybe the clinical care centers had a lot to do with that. So.
Yeah.
I go to KU primarily, and they're on it over there at the KU Medical Center. They're very familiar with it, and all my docs that I'm involved with are very up on it. And so I'm meeting with a medical oncologist next week to talk about this new drug and see what he thinks and go from there. So.
Well, I think it's very hopeful, and I've been out of touch for quite some time now. But as I said, I have a niece who she's just about a year ago had a brain surgery, her first brain surgery, and her mother and her brother passed away from complications to the VHL. And I hope that she will get more involved and be more hopeful to use the drugs and the treatment. I don't know, I haven't spoken to a doctor about VHL in many years, and I have a sense that she's not as involved in talking to the doctors and keeping up to speed with the new drug and the new treatments. And so I hope that someone could reach out to her a little more. I tried to through her father, and I don't think I've been successful over the years. This is something I'm going to ask the new director of VHL to do.
Right.
The young woman with a young daughter, and we still have genetic testing going on, and I'm not sure she's had her daughter genetically tested yet. And
Right, and I'll just insert, I did speak with Peggy earlier today, and I asked her what she thinks we still need to work on, and her comment was that the doctors don't know a lot about VHL. So there are some doctors who do know about VHL, and as Tom mentioned, a lot more doctors have heard about VHL. That's a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to be done in training the doctors and helping the families also to understand what's going on. So at this point, I wanted to pass the ball to Chandra and maybe Heidi also, and get you all to ask us questions about, we do have 30 and more years of perspective on VHL. And we care a lot, as you heard, because we have dependents who are still grappling with VHL. Do you have questions or challenges for us to answer?
Thank you, Joyce. So actually, I'd like to start with Heidi, and then I will follow after Heidi.
Great, thanks, Chandra. First of all, thank you for including us in this discussion. It's great to see some of you that I haven't seen in a while, and to reconnect. And we would love to stay connected to all of you. And Fred, I look forward to either Chandra or myself reaching out to your niece at any time. So it's always nice to hear about the past, and I think there's always things that we can learn from the past. But my focus, and I think I can speak for Chandra, is our focus for the VHL Alliance is really the future. And we are so hopeful, and we're moving forward. We have to date given over $2.6 million towards research. And part of that has helped come up with this new drug that was just FDA approved, Welireg, also known as belfutazan. That's the generic name. So, we are excited about that. We're in November, we'll be announcing additional grantees for our grant program, so that dollar amount will increase even more. So it's just really encouraging. We have amazing programs for our patients. We are constantly doing everything we can for the VHL community. I don't really have specific questions, but I just want you all to know that we are here for you and would love your support and want to learn from you and your history as we look forward to the future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heidi. So first, I want to say thank you to Joyce for inviting us to attend this meeting and for organizing this meeting. And thank you to all of you for attending. So Fred, I want to begin with you. Of course, I would be happy to reach out to your niece so I can email you. And that is the most important part of my job. So I'm never too busy to speak to a patient. In order for us to really do the work that we do, our patients come first. So I would be happy to reach out to her. And as a Black woman who also is a mother, I understand the importance of just her feeling that sense of support. And so I'd be, more than happy to reach out to her. But I don't have any questions. What I want to start with is just briefly that I just recently celebrated my 1-year anniversary with the Alliance last week. And what brought me to this organization is really this idea of quality of life and how we are really focused on not just finding a cure, but how do we support our community in the day-to-day. So for me, especially being with the Alliance for a year, what really drew me to VHL Alliance is this idea of how do we really support the quality of life. That is something that I can relate to. I can relate to the fight for your day-to-day. So yes, we know that we want to find a cure. We're so excited about the new drug, but we also know that our patients need support day in and day out. So number one, focusing on our mission will always be a priority. Everything that we do as an organization has to come back to our mission and our vision, and our patient population is first. And so for me as the new ED, which I probably need to stop referring to myself as the new ED, that idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that is very important to me as a leader, but also to our entire organization. So we spent the past few months really focusing on how do we receive the proper education that we need internally so that we could go out externally and reach more patients, because we know that we've done a great job in supporting those who are currently diagnosed. But what about those who have not been diagnosed or are not even aware, they're not diagnosed or they have VHL, but they don't feel comfortable receiving the support that they need? So we're looking at things of how do we provide the proper education and awareness to affect all populations of people so that we can reach people beyond barriers, whether that's race, social, economic, geographic, age. But then also, how do we continue to expand our reach and making sure that the education and the literature that we provide about VHL is something that can reach everyone. We don't want someone to go to our website and feel intimidated about what does it really mean. It's, being diagnosed with this disease and then you don't know how you will move forward. So we're looking at things right now. We're in the process of going through strategic planning as an organization because we really want clarity around our organizational goals and our focus. We also are going through a rebranding of our marketing materials because we want to make sure that they are diverse, equitable, and inclusive in every way, shape, and form. And then we're also looking at ways that we can help support our staff internally so that we can broaden our reach again and get out and do more work and do it effectively and efficiently. And so I say all that to say, what I would like to ask of each of you is continue to hold us accountable in the work that we're doing. It's important for us to really move forward to understand where we come from. And this is a great time for our organization. And so we really want to do what is best for each of you and your families and everyone that has been impacted by VHL. So we can only do that by hearing from you. So I am always available. I want to know, Joyce and I have talked several times during my past year. And there's a lot more work to be done. When you talk about education as far as physicians, there are a lot of physicians that don't know about VHL, but please know that we're working on education and programming through our clinical care centers so that we can better educate our physicians, but also reach more be diverse in our education of physicians too, especially in reaching younger populations. So there's a lot of moving parts, which is why it's important for us to kind of take this pause and say, as an organization, what can we really focus on right now? Where do we want to go in the future? We know where we've come from. Joyce, thank you for all that you've done for our organization. How can we effectively move forward? Because 30 years from now, hopefully it won't be 30 years from now, maybe a year, maybe 3, maybe 5. Hopefully we will have a cure. So everything goes back to that sense of hope and that sense of healing. So that's a little bit, I think I talked a little bit longer than I expected to, but I thank you all for the opportunity to have this time with you today.
Thank you, Chandra. And I have to say, I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you very much, your focus on quality of life and on equity and inclusion. I remember when we first started talking about this new drug that was hopefully going to get approved in July, and it was approved in July. I remember saying to one of the doctors, you know, but if it comes in at a price tag of $50,000 a year or more, that's not going to reach a lot of the people who need access to this drug. So what can we do to lower the price? And he said, well, you know, with insurance, it's only about $1,000 a month, but $1,000 a month is still out of reach for an awful lot of people. So can you tell us what you're already doing and what you're planning to do to try to make sure that more people have access to the drug that need it?
Absolutely. So right now, again, because it's so early on, we're still in this place of getting more clarity around how physicians are prescribing the drug. But I can tell you that we have ongoing meetings with Merck. So we meet with Merck about twice a month now. It was weekly right until the time that the drug was approved. And what we found is that those who have insurance have a very minimal copay. And then Merck has also put together a patient assistance program. So we keep all of the information that we receive updated on our website. So we make sure that we're sending it out. We just recently hosted a town hall meeting on September 14th to provide our community with updates. But as far as the feedback that we've gotten right now is that the copays have been low. Good. And that Merck has an assistance program. So we also do a lot of work around federal advocacy. So partnering with other organizations to stay before Congress about things like access and pricing, in addition to our conversations with Merck. So should we have a patient that has any issues with getting the drug covered, they can reach out to us and we will do all that we can to support them. But as of today, we have not had any issues.
That's great to hear. Thank you. So one of the things that we focused on over the last, the 20, 30 years that we have been involved in it was that while we all wanted a cure, meanwhile, in that 30 years, there were an awful lot of people dealing with an awful lot of tumors. And so our goal was to make sure that they were found as early as possible, that the families knew what signals to watch for, that the doctors knew how to do the diagnostic tests. And I know you've done a lot of that through your clinical care centers as well. So what other efforts are being made? You alluded to some medical education efforts through the clinical care centers. Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. So Dr. Iliopoulos, he is the chair of our research and advisory council. So we have been working with him on how we can put together programming, monthly programming through our clinical care centers to help increase physician education. So I can tell you what we've done right now because we're still outlining it, is with the recent approval of the drug, we held meetings with our clinical care centers to provide them with updates and information. And right now we're working with Dr. Iliopoulos to schedule ongoing meetings. But because we're in the middle of strategic planning at the same time, right now we're being very intentional about what we implement, because right now we're in this phase of assessment and then moving to this place of what do we implement next, and then how do we move forward with execution. So to answer your question, I think the most immediate thing for us is as we receive more information about the drug and have more questions from our physicians and our patients, we will continue ongoing meetings to provide updates. But as we move through the strategic planning process, then we can look at our priorities as an organization to refine some of our internal committees, but also our strategic priorities that relate to clinical care. So as we have more information on that, which will be probably early December, I will make sure that that's communicated to the community. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. That's very helpful. Does anyone else have questions for Chandra?
Oh, just that, am I going to be on this 6 months, 6 years, 15 years? How long can my body tolerate this chemotherapy drug? There's no guidance on the length of time you might be on it. I know Dr. Iliopoulos said that no, we don't really have information on that yet. So that's going to have an impact on at least folks in my family want to get involved and start taking the drug and see if it's, be a part of almost like a trial in itself. So I know there's some concern there. Fred mentioned something that development that's maybe underemphasized is the ability to genetic test. I mean, I know my family and myself, we participated in the Genome Project and got to the point where we could do genetic testing. That was a huge development from my standpoint, that we could test our boys and see which ones had it and which ones didn't and which ones needed to be on some sort of screening regimen. The ability to genetic test, I think, was a really big development too. I don't remember how long ago that was, but I think that was a huge development too. And then I have used the Alliance. Josh Mann's been very helpful. I got a weird report from my kidney oncologist, and he got me a second opinion out of NIH. So I sent my MRIs up there and got a second opinion on a read from my kidney oncologist. So that's something that I don't know if that's something the VHL Alliance wants to get into helping people with, but he's helped me with getting a second opinion one time, and it's very, 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 very helpful.
Thank you for bringing that up. So actually, when I talk about strategic priorities for clinical care, that is actually one of them.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's something that we want to do more work around second opinions. But again, right now, it's been kind of a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
I think one of the things that what I've come to understand about the Alliance is our whole staff, we're all passionate about the work that we do. So is our board, so are all of our supporters. But it's really important that we work as smart and efficiently as possible. And so looking at, as we focus on things like second opinions, possibly telemedicine, things of that nature, how do we put the right mechanisms in place to make sure that we have adequate staff support? So yes, we do believe that second opinions are very important, and that's something that we want to focus more on.
Good.
I have a simple question, I think. Is the new drug appropriate for certain types of tumors or all VHL tumors? Or would it just be appropriate for kidney or brain or?
I think certain ones, as I understand it, kidney, pancreas, and brain, but I may have misunderstood, but I think it's kind of focused on those, Fred, I think.
It was originally just for kidney, and that's what the trial was for. And we were actually over the moon thrilled that hemangioblastomas as well as pancreatic tumors were part of the accepted use. And, there's been, from the 61 patients that were on the trial, 59 that stayed on long-term, they really had either all their tumors stayed the same or shrank.
So, Fred, we received information that it was approved for all manifestations. So right now, we're still, again, in that phase of we're getting more information about as doctors prescribe it and as patients reach out to us. But the information that we received, at first, they were looking just at kidney, at RCC, but then it was all manifestations. But again, we're all at this place where we're just getting more information as it comes in. So one thing I can promise you that the Alliance is committed to is I have a meeting with Merck tomorrow. I am constantly requesting meetings with their team because it's not enough to meet with them up until the drug is approved. We have so much more work to do and there's much more education to be done. So know that there will be more, we're going to schedule a Q&A with Dr. Leopoulos that we can record and just post questions to him that can be answered and sent out to the community. We will do more town halls. We're doing more meetings with our clinical care center. So more to come. And I am committed to staying in front of Merck and saying, these are the questions that we have. How do we answer them?
Great. And I understand there's some variety in response too. So,
yes.
but at least because of the way the approval is worded, it is possible for a doctor to prescribe it for any aspect of VHL, right? And, yeah. And that the insurance company should not balk too much at paying for it. So that's all to the good. And then, of course, different patients are going to respond to it in a somewhat different way. So we're still in a little bit of an experimental phase, but at least we have the enabling of the FDA approval in very good wording.
And my cousin just she got denied by insurance as experimental, but reached out to Merck's patient assistance program or whatever it was. And so she's been prescribed and intends to take it, but she was initially denied by her insurance as experimental.
Yeah.
It was only approved in July, so.
Yeah, so that's
cool. Merck covered that. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. And this has been a great conversation, and it's delightful for me to see the progress that's being made. I remember I told Chandra that when I was in one of the scientific meetings before the drug was approved, and as they were talking about the drug and the results that we'd seen from the people who were in the trial, I was having my moonwalk moment. I was sitting with my grandmother when the men were walking on the moon in what was it, 1968, and she turned to me and she said, "You know, I remember Kitty Hawk." And I was so stunned that in one person's lifetime you could go from Kitty Hawk to the moon. And so in my lifetime, I've gone from almost no understanding of VHL in 1962 to my husband's death in 1977, the beginning of the Alliance in 1993, and the adventure with my son through his journey with VHL to where we are today with the dawn of an era where we're going to see really effective medical treatment for VHL for the first time, not just a whole bunch of surgeries. So I'm very grateful to everyone who has been down this path with us in the last 30 years, and very grateful to those of you who are carrying the banner forward, and look forward to working with you on further progress. Thank you so much.
Joyce, may I add one thing? I just again want to thank you all. I know I've been talking a lot, so it's hard on Zoom to read facial expressions. So I hope that I'm not annoying you. I hope that this is really good information for your group. But I just want to say thank you to all of you. And at any time, if you want to talk, please let me know, because the work that we're doing is really serious and we are very mission focused and mission critical. And it's very important to me. This is not just a 9 to 5. This is something that I live and I breathe, and there are no off days. And I hope that shows through the work that we're doing at the Alliance. So thank you all again.
Thank you very much, Chandra. And thanks to all of our pioneers, not only the people on this call, but the people we love who've gone before us and who are no longer with us, who have fought the good fight with VHL and taught us so much and brought us to where we are today. Thank you very much.
Yes. Great to see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Keep in touch.
Thank you for your hard work.
I will. Thank you.